President Cyril Ramaphosa will today sign the South African Sign Language Bill into law during a ceremony at the Union Buildings. President Cyril Ramaphosa will enact the sign language as the 12th official language. The recognition of the South African Sign Language as the 12th official language is an important step towards the realization of the rights of persons who are deaf or hard of hearing. To continue this conversation, we are now joined by Dr Sally Maepa, who is the Senior Provincial Manager for the Gauteng Pan-South African Language Board, as well as Andiswa Gebashe, an interpreter for the South African Sign Language. Thank you so much for making time for us. What does this moment signify? Also considering that already you have a charter that recognizes sign language as an official language for people who are hard of hearing or who are deaf, as well as the Schools Act. Just quickly try and see if you can unmute your mic there. It's one of those, I guess, when it comes to having virtual conversations. So the mic is unmute. Okay, perfect. So just tell us about the significance of this. And as I indicated as well, that you already have a charter that back in 1996 recognized that sign language is an official language for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, as well as the South African Schools Act.
Thank you very much and good morning to the viewers. Yes, this is a very prestigious moment for us as South Africans and especially to the deaf community. And indeed, Pan-South African Language Board has launched a charter on the 4th of September in 2020. And of course, we are delighted today that the President will be signing this officialization of the South African Sign Language into law. This means that now the deaf community will also have an opportunity to get their services served in the language that they use, which is the South African Sign Language. And it is also an opportunity for us as South Africans as well to try and learn the language so that we are able to communicate with the deaf community. You know, our constitution is also, alluded that every human being has got a right to have access to the services in the language that they prefer. So for us as Pan-South, we are happy that this is happening today.
Yeah, and Doctor, does it only stop with government institutions? Is there an expectation as well that corporate South Africa will also adopt sign language, especially when it comes to the cold face of interacting with customers, and those customers, some of them being deaf?
I think our charter is very clear. It does not only refer to the government department, it also, covers every sector in the country. So we are expecting that the government departments, the private sector and individuals will also have to abide to this charter that we have launched in the previous 2 years.
So, Dr. Maepa, in simple terms, what does this then mean for each and every South African, and especially what you have outlined in the charter as well?
This means that each and every South African will have an opportunity, or should I say rather that each and every South African should learn the South African Sign Language so that they are able to communicate with the deaf community. And in cases where people are not able to communicate in the South African Sign Language, the private sector and the government departments should make sure that they provide South African Sign Language interpreters so that the deaf community can also get access to the services.
Yeah. What does PanSAP, for instance, have any programs that they would be launching to? Because it sounds like a big deal, right? That now you have sign language becoming the official 12th language of the country and pushes for a certain shift. But then also the support that is required to bring all South Africans on board to actually recognize the significance of this moment, but also to learn the language. So all of the work that goes into it and also the teaching of a sign language. Do you have any programs in place?
Yes, I must say PanSAP has already been proactive in consideration that the South African Sign Language will be the 12th official language. Already, we have been doing training to the parents and the families of the deaf children so that they are able to communicate with the deaf children that are at schools. And we have also been providing training for the frontline workers at the government departments. And what we also do, we do awareness campaigns so that we make the country, we make the people aware of the do's and the don'ts of the deaf culture. What we'll also be doing for the government departments, that we'll be having a workshop on the 22nd of September, wherein we'll be having all the national government departments and the state-owned entities in one house, taking them through what it is expected from them once the sign language has been officialized. We'll also be taking this to the provinces, so it will not only be done at the national government department, it will also be rolled out to the provinces so that the provincial government departments and the private sector in the provinces can also come on board.
Yeah. And with the South African Schools Act, we know that sign language has already been adopted as an official medium of instruction. But can sign language be classified as a home language?
Yes, it can be classified as a home language. We are working very closely with the Department of Basic Education. And in fact, we're having a conference next week wherein we'll be talking about the multilingual education. So we are going to be advising the Department of Basic Education also to add the South African Sign Language as one of the home language. Because what we are also doing, we are working with the universities and other experts in the country, trying to standardize the lexicon of the South African Sign Language so that it can be a standard language wherein, if a learner is coming from the Free State is able to go and change the schools and learn in the KZN, because currently we are using different signs. You cannot really clearly understand someone who's coming from the KZN as compared to someone who's coming from the Free State. I know their languages, they're not that different, but what I'm saying is they're using different dialects. Hence, the Pan South African Language Board is working with the universities and other organizations, deaf organizations, to make sure that the lexicon of the South African Sign Language is standardized.
And with that standardization, does it mean that some of the signs that come from sign language would be internationally recognized as well?
We are talking about the South African Sign Language. In this case, we are referring to the sign language that is only used in the in the country of South Africa. There are different signs that are used from the other countries which are similar to the South African Sign Language. But what we are saying we want to standardize is to standardize for the South African Sign Language so that the Department of Basic Education can also be able to teach or maybe use this as the medium of teaching and learning.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. That is Dr. Maepa there, who is the Senior Provincial Manager for Gauteng at the Pan South African Language Board, and also Andiswa Gebashe, an interpreter for the South African Sign Language. And Andiswa taught me something a bit earlier on. Should we give it a try? How do we do it? Is this it? We did well. Thank you so much. Love you.